do you know another interesting thing, Adam, is that how essence making is natural to children.
I didn't know that. No.
Oh, I've seen so many instances where children just naturally know how to make essences, and they're just they sit there like, you know, peers of mine. And I've been in situations where children have made essences, or where I've been talking about an essence, and a child has come up to me later and said, do you know, I actually think I would have done it like this. Or like, oh yeah, you're probably right. And I have, you know, as I've got quite a few. This essence here, I might as well tell you about the love essence, for instance. That was made after 9/11, because there was a fear that a lot of the indigos would just close their hearts, because there was such a lot of confusion and distress, and the world was wondering, you know, was Bush going to push the button or not, and what, you know, what was going to happen next. A lot of people were in serious chaos and disarray. And so I got a message that an essence was to be made for the indigo types particularly, and that I wasn't to make it, that the children were to make it themselves. I said, right, that's put me in my place. Anyway, so I asked the nephews and the little girl next door, who was 7 at the time, and I said, you know, and it's just extraordinary. Part of the thing about children is that they don't know limitation. They don't have a limitation. So I said to them, could you help make an essence for all the children in the world who need love in their lives? And they said, yeah, no problem. So they went, and I said, right, off you go. They went into the essence making room, and they sat there for, it felt like, a couple of hours. And I thought they'd probably forgotten what they were at. But in fact, they came out and said, now we're ready to start. They'd spent a lot of time thinking about it. And so they asked for a bowl of water, and they said that I could come in if I wanted to. So I said, thanks very much, and I did. And they sat around, and there were 3 of them. The little Micah put his little finger in the bowl, and he said that that was to represent his skateboards. And I was thinking microbes, oh my God, you know. And it was only afterwards I realized that, of course, that's the heart chakra. That's the end of the heart meridian, if you like. So it was like he was putting heart energy in. Ben had an amulet around his neck, and he dropped that into the water. And then Jen, who was 7, she had this plait in her hair, you know, with plaits that are lots of lovely curly or lovely colours in them. And she dipped that in, and I was thinking all the time, God, I'll have to, how am I going to get to disinfect this somehow? And it wasn't until afterwards I was thinking, you know, at the time I thought, that's all very sweet, yeah, it's lovely. But I didn't really get what they had put in.
Yes, absolutely.
For ages, actually. And it was, I think it was possibly that night as well, I asked them, would they send some of that essence around? Could they send it to the kids who needed it? And they sat down, and they put a drop on their hands, and they just closed their eyes and made wiggly things with their noses. And they were gone for ages and ages. And when they came back, they had stories about children they'd seen and places they'd been to. And they had actually gone out with this essence and sent it around the world.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't it? Isn't it?
And that's, I suppose, what would you say? That is one of the things that I think that we're going to come into, or we need to come into, is a greater understanding of how children are natural healers and how they love to use this, this ability. For instance, if you give a box of those essences to a child, they'll start out with themselves if they need an essence. Then they'll go and they'll get essences for the parents. Then they'll go down the street and get, you know, the best friend and anybody else they can think of. And they'll just pass it around. You know, they just have this, they want everybody to come into balance, and they will do everything they can to make that happen. You know.